Thanks for staying with us. The late Lucky Dube's message of hope and unity helped bridge the divide in South Africa. That's according to his record label, Gallo Music. And they're paying homage to the musician who tragically lost his life some 16 years ago. As a tribute to him, Gallo Music is paying homage to him over the next 2 weeks. In a career spanning 25 years, Dube released 22 albums. So what's planned to celebrate this giant? We're joined by Goodwill Nkuno, who's the product manager at Gallo Music. Goodwill, thank you so much for your time. And like I said to you earlier, when my team told me it's been 16 years, I actually couldn't believe it. Because like you say, so many people can remember where they were when the story broke of the death of Lucky Dube. Do you think we've come to terms with the impact that the life and music of this icon of ours had had on both the music industry and indeed generations of South Africans?
I don't think we have. Good evening to you, Marcel, and the viewers. I think Lucky Dube was larger than life. He passed away at the age of 43. By the age of 28, he already had himself a house. He was touring the US of A, Japan, before we even knew. Some of us didn't even have passports then. And I don't think that we've come to terms with how much of a big impact that he had in our country.
Now, you started out making music in the Mbaqanga band. I think his brother was part of this band, from what I've read, but found his way to reggae music, and that was in the mid-'80s. What was it about that genre that you believe he connected with so strongly?
I think it was the influence of the likes of Peter Tosh, and I think it's more about the storytelling that the music brought with it as well. Lucky Dube, at the time, he was a gold-selling artist in Maskandi, in Mbaqanga, and he found that in reggae music, he'll be able to tell his story better. It was universal and more of the storytelling more than anything else.
Now, at the time, especially in those 80s, his songs was met with quite a bit of opposition from the then apartheid government, and that would have been during a very tumultuous time in our history. And you think about the youth and the role they played at the time and the soundtrack to their lived reality at the time, and Lucky Dube's music would have been part of that. As a student of his genre, would he have found solace in the stance taken by Bob Marley during his storied life, during a tumultuous time in his country's history as well?
No, I believe so. I mean, in his song Victims, he even quotes Bob Marley saying that little did they know that the enemy will stand around and look while the victims of the situation kill each other. And that song resonates to what happened to him in 2007 in his sad passing on the 18th of October. Lucky Dube identified with that. His music was actually banned. Some of his music was banned in South Africa. It was not allowed to play. Even the record company itself were pushing him back to say that you can't sing reggae because it's not fashionable. But he did prove us all wrong.
Mm. A lot of his music called for unity through diversity, and I think I remember from especially his last albums that it was a very strong golden thread through so much of his lyrics. Now, Gallo Music has used that to draw comparisons to the progress made by a unifying body like the Springboks, which is, of course, in the headlines right now. Why have you decided to make that link?
We actually did not decide. The family came to us and reminded us of that sad passing away of Lucky Dube in 2007. The then President Thabo Mbeki made a statement encouraging the Springboks who were playing in France, which they are doing now. And he said that the win for the Springboks, as we know they've won the World Cup, would be a nice tribute to Lucky Dube. Even the then Arts and Culture Minister, Paul Jordan, made statements in the same regard. Before the interview today, I was looking at how many people were in the band that Lucky Dube had. From Tutugane Kele, there were over 15 people that would be the entourage to Lucky Dube. He was carrying the South African flag wherever he went. And that is what impact he had, not only on music, but on culture, and affected politicians as well. And the Springboks actually did pick up the trophy, and the song was released in 1993. It was called Different Colors, One People. So we found that triggered all emotions, and we were asking each other in the office, with the family, of course, to saying that actually this is the time. And it's amazing that 16 years later, the Springboks are back in France. They're competing in the Rugby World Cup. In 1993, when Lucky Dube wrote the song "Victims" and Different Colors, Francois Pienaar was the captain of the Springboks, and today we're seeing Siya Kolisi being the captain. And it's amazing that even though he came from a difficult period in our political situation in South Africa, he still saw positivity and a beautiful change that's going to happen. And we're very proud of the song that laid the foundation for unity in South Africa as well.
Where does the genre of reggae music in South Africa find itself now? Because Lucky Dube was kind of that, he was that icon of that genre in South Africa, and indeed on the continent as well. We forget he had a huge following across the continent as well. Where does that genre find itself right now? Because one would say we're still living in rather tumultuous times, and we need voices, especially in a genre like reggae, now more than ever.
I'm glad you're saying that. I think even though now the South African Music Awards are finding themselves in the situation they are finding themselves, about 3 seasons ago, they did introduce a reggae award, meaning that reggae is on its way back. And I do think that Lucky Dube was telling stories, and we need that to still be there. There's still a lot of representatives who are doing reggae, but the stardom of Lucky Dube, I think it overshadows a lot of them. But the storytelling has to continue.
So tell us more about what Gallo is planning in honoring Lucky Dube's life during this commemoration period.
What we're doing, we're trying to be authentic about his story. I mean, I looked at his YouTube numbers. Lucky Dube is sitting over 350,000 YouTube subscribers. We're very proud of that, meaning that he still has fans. He's got fans across Kenya, in Brazil, USA, believe it or not, is still one of his big markets, second to South Africa, of course. So what we are doing is that as a family and as Gallo Record Company, we continue to tell his stories. And I was reading the liner notes from his victims. Liner notes, for the people that don't know, is what used to come with CDs, and people used to write thank you on that. So Lucky Dube actually thanked each and every person that was featured on the album, or people that helped him in the album. And this is how authentic he was. He'd make statements about them. So what Gallo is doing, we're retelling the story in this digital field. We're making shorts for YouTube shorts. We're telling the story through TikTok. There is his website now where you can go check out his story. You look at his Spotify numbers, he's sitting way over 850,000 followers. And we can only be proud of those numbers. We realize that he's got an audience, and we want to connect with the audience that Lucky Dube has left his legacy for us to continue.
And indeed, the stories that he told in these lyrics have really stood the sands of time, as it were, because it is still relevant today. Thank you so much for your time this evening. Goodwill Nkuna is project manager at Gallo Music, and he's really brought back some memories. Those liner notes, those notes inside CDs, used to be the first thing you go home and you open up and you read it while listening to the music over and over again. There was no internet then, and that's how old we are. Anyway, so Lucky Dube's life being honoured by both his family and his record label, and it sounds like they're heading into the digital world to find even newer fans of the great musical icon, 16 years following his untimely death.